Hey everybody, it's Melissa, and today I'm going to be giving you my honest opinion and full review of Grey Vetiver by Tom Ford. And honestly, I don't like this fragrance. I actually love this scent. All right, so this fragrance in the opening might not be that appealing. And let me explain, all right? If you were to walk into Sephora and spray Grey Vetiver on a test strip, you might think, okay, this is a bit hand sanitizer-y. I'm not really sure I'm liking this scent, and then you'll pass it over. It's a scent that, to me, you have to apply it on skin, and you really have to let the fragrance breathe, and you have to wait for that dry down. So for all you impatient people, that's what I would recommend to do, and that's typically what you're supposed to do with a majority, with fragrances in general. But, you know, I know how it is. Like, you go into a perfume shop, you really want to make sure that you're kind of taken with this scent. Not everybody has the time to just kind of wait around to see how a fragrance is going to develop. But with this one, I really would recommend that, all right? So what does Grey Vetiver smell like? It's a citrusy fragrance with a teeny bit of a woody dry down on myself, all right? So you get grapefruit off the opening, and then there is oak moss in this scent, but thankfully on me, it's pretty undetectable. Now, my first initial impression of this fragrance, before I even smelled it, was that, okay, this is probably going to be a vetiver heavy fragrance, more of like a masculine green scent, probably not something I would enjoy that much. That was kind of like when I saw the name of the scent, that's where my mind went. All right, so I had a little bit of that bias that it was going to be something I wouldn't really care for. Then when I first smelled it, I was like, okay, like it's nice. But then as it sat on my skin, I was like, oh man, this is getting better and better. And the more times that I've worn this month, well, it's the last day of the month, it's just become more and more enjoyable each time. So it's like, it ages really nicely. You know, when people say it ages like fine wine, that's how I feel about Grey Vetiver. Now, I believe this is marketed as a masculine fragrance, and I think that the average person that smells this off rip would think, if you had to make the choice between masculine and feminine, this would be more of a masculine fragrance. But for all of my fragrance lovers that are niche heads, or let's take a scent like, what is it, like Fico de Amalfi, right? To me, that reads as a unisex fragrance. I think if you're a woman in the fragrance community, this is something that you would honestly be like, okay, I can pull that off. Like, you would read it as unisex. Again, I'm talking about a particular niche of people, but for a majority, I think initially, like when you smell it, you're like, okay, this is more of a masculine fragrance. Now, in terms of compliment factor, I've received 2 compliments from this fragrance from a man and a woman. So, and it was in my scent trail. So I was in front of them, and these are people that I know. And I was just like walking in front of them, and they're like, damn, you smell nice. Like, that smells good. And that was the dry down of this fragrance. So what this leads me to the next section is the longevity of this scent. Because, sorry about that, there was just like a little fuzzball. But the longevity of this fragrance surprised me. So I did my typical 5 sprays. I did 1 behind each ear, the back of my neck, and the back of my shoulder blades. And at this time I was wearing a shirt, so it was, you know, the back of that shirt on the shoulder blades, right? So this scent, noticeably, I was getting it like 5 to 6 hours, that I'm like, yeah, I could still smell this on me pretty consistently. And it was still surpassing that point. Now, I applied this at 4 p.m. after I took a shower, right? Ran a couple errands. The next morning at 10, I was still catching whiffs of this fragrance on me. Now, I'm not saying that it has like an insane scent trail or that it's a beast mode fragrance, but this one was definitely lingering on my skin because I wasn't wearing that same shirt that I had on earlier that day in the morning. You know what I mean? So this was still coming off of my skin. And that's when I got complimented on this scent, is that morning. Like, I was walking and like those 2 people were like, oh my gosh, yeah, you smell nice. So this one really latches on my skin, and I want to be specific when I say me, all right? Because when people think longevity, I don't want to give like a general, oh, if it lasted this long on me, it's going to last that long on you. As always, test the fragrance for yourself, because it might be weak, it might be strong, but just like ballpark myself, those 3 to 5 sprays, it was going for a long time. Like, it was 10 plus hours on my skin but not a beast mode fragrance. It would come in and out, all right? So just keep that in mind. But Grey Vetiver was more of, it's a pretty linear fragrance. Like it's like citrus heavy with that grapefruit. But then as it dries down, a little bit of like that woodiness kind of beefs up the fragrance. And it's just like so sensual and classy. You know, I think if you watched my video where I unboxed it and you saw my reactions with this scent, it's sexy in a way that it's not trying to be such a mass appealing fragrance, but it ends up being that. You know, it's like it's a scent that's so sure of itself that when you smell this, you would initially think, okay, this might be a professional fragrance. It might be a work environment fragrance. But at the same time, like I said in my first video, I see this on just like, I just picture like a rich person on a boat or a yacht. And that doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. You know, it's just, if you've seen that Dolce & Gabbana commercial, like their ad for it, like a guy and a girl just like on a boat and they look hot. That's the vibe I get from Grey Vetiver, but instead of fun, it's rich. You know what I'm saying? Like this smells like a rich person's fragrance. Some people have mentioned James Bond when they think of this scent, and I don't actually remember watching the Bond movies, but I know that character very well. He's a very confident guy, right? And I could totally see that. This is just a confident person's fragrance. You're not really trying to impress anybody with this scent, but you just do it. There's something about the fragrance to me that elevates you. You know, when you're dressed up nicely and you're wearing something like this, it's gonna smell good. But at the same time, if you're casually kicking it in just a white t-shirt or a button up or going to brunch, it still smells good. I think classy is really the best way to put this fragrance. And even though it's a simple scent that I said has a little bit of a linear tone to it, I don't think it's one-dimensional. I think that, and that's the thing, that it might sound it might sound hypocritical, right? Because you're like, how can it be linear, but you're saying it's not really a one-dimensional fragrance? There's something about the simplicity of it that's just like so attractive that even if it is a bit linear, it doesn't, like, it's not boring. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, it ages like fine wine. If you've had like a really delicious wine before and you're like, whoa, like this is like a powerhouse, or like it just kind of like your taste buds just end up loving it. And I don't even know how to put this the right way. I think if you've tried those things before, even if you've smelled Grey Vetiver and you share the same sentiment, it doesn't need to be complex. There's nothing that needs to be overcomplicated about this fragrance, because it's not a complicated scent, but it's a scent that you either rock with it or you don't, you know. And it doesn't really, it's not trying, I think this is the example I used before, it's not trying to wear so many hats where, it has to be super mass appealing, it's gonna be a massive compliment getter. I think that it still checks off those boxes by being an unapologetic, just dominant, confident fragrance. And this is not to confuse confidence with cocky, all right? It's not a scent that has to be like oversprayed. I feel like if you overspray this fragrance, you would come across as a douchebag. And like, that would be my initial impression of it. If I smelled somebody that was like doused in Grey Vetiver, like, to me, like I said, it screams like confident, secure person. But if you were doused in Grey Vetiver, I think it can come across as the opposite, as like, oh, I'm insecure, but I'm trying to come across as confident and secure. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't need that. It's the same way that when you see a confident person, they're not the person that's always talking or trying to like seek validation from people and like, you know, just be like, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I'm making this much. Like, you know, those people that talk like that, majority of people, when you're listening, like when they hear that person, no one's like, oh wow, they must be doing really well. Majority of people are like, no, you're not, or you're definitely trying to compensate for something, you know. So this is for the people that you don't seek validation, you know. It's a strong, like, good fragrance. When I say strong, I don't mean like powerhouse, all right? I really want to just hammer that in there, but it's cool, it's elegant, And for me, this is my dialed in fragrance. Like, this is my boss fragrance. Like, if I'm going to be in a meeting, if I'm going to be in even like a work phone call, like there's something about this fragrance that just like, it channels me into that energy. It makes me tap into that energy, you know? So it's just, it's a good scent. Like, I love it. I love this scent. So that's all I have to say about Grey Vetiver before I keep droning on and on about it. If you want to look at the note breakdown, I think there's some pimento and, you know, some other things in that scent. If you really want the specifics, you can probably find it on Fragrantica, but those are just the things that I picked up on. Citrusy, a little bit of a woody dry down, but the citrus is definitely the superstar. But from start to finish, when it starts to breathe, you know, when the alcoholiness of the scent dissipates, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scent. So right now, this is definitely one of my favorite standard designer fragrances. And I would recommend you look into it if you are looking for something that is versatile and that you can use for anything that is just an amazing signature scent. All right. Anyways, I hope y'all have a great day and I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye.